In a typical mid-market fashion range, the top 20% of SKUs generate approximately 80% of gross profit. The bottom 20%, measured by fully loaded contribution margin, not simple gross margin, frequently generate negative contribution. They consume working capital, planning resource, and markdown budget at a rate that exceeds their revenue contribution. The brand is paying for them to exist. Both figures are curriculum calibration estimates. The precise threshold varies by brand and category, but the directional pattern is consistent. And in most cases, management does not know which 20% they are. Here is the conversation that happens in almost every fashion brand's planning cycle every season without variation. The creative director wants 1200 SKUs for the autumn collection. It is the brand's most ambitious range. Every segment is served, the range tells a complete story. The CFO wants to cut it to 800. The open to buy is under pressure. The finance team is looking to reduce inventory commitment and protect working capital. Both are wrong, and they are wrong for reasons neither has articulated clearly. One treats the assortment as a created portfolio, the other as a fixed budget constraint. The creative director is wrong because he is treating the assortment as a creative portfolio, a collection of ideas representing ambition, not constrained by performance. The CFO is wrong because she is cutting by budget, reducing total OTB by a fixed percentage without any analytical basis for which SKUs to cut or protect. A flat cut reduces the scale of the range without changing the composition. The brand still carries the same proportion of poorly performing items, just fewer of them. The gap between the creative director's intuition and the CFO's cost management reflex is where margin is consistently destroyed season after season. This topic is about filling that gap with a methodology, an analytical framework that tells the planning team exactly which items to make and which to not make at all. Mechanism 1: Demand dilution and markdown amplification. When a brand adds SKUs, it is splitting the demand for that category across more items. If the category generates 1000 units, the new item divides existing demand across more options. Each item carries lower expected demand, pushing it into the tail. But fixed minimum order quantities from suppliers constrain how low the commitment can go. The buyer is forced to order more than the optimal quantity. Sell through falls. The financial signature: markdown rates higher in categories with variant proliferation than in disciplined ranges, even when total revenue is growing. Mechanism 2: Planning complexity cost. Every additional SKU is a planning unit in the forecast, OTB, production, and store allocation models. Each SKU consumes planning resource that is largely fixed. With 1200 SKUs, each receives less analytical attention. Forecast accuracy degrades. Buying becomes mechanical. The errors that result, overcommitment on misses and undercommitment on winners, become harder to correct when the range is so wide that the team cannot give adequate attention. Mechanism 3: Consumer cognitive load and conversion suppression. Research by Ijenga and Barry Schwartz argues that beyond a certain point, expanding choices reduces purchase probability. Use consumer psychology as directional framing. The primary evidence is in the brand's own data, markdown rates, full price sell through, and revenue per SKU. Consumers encountering near identical options are more likely to leave with nothing. Revenue per SKU falls while planning and markdown costs rise. Structural deterioration. The argument is not universal. Three conditions make range expansion genuinely value creating. First, genuine demand heterogeneity across segmented consumer bases. Second, long tail economics in digital native businesses. DTC brands with no floor cost can carry broader ranges without the markdown amplification mechanism. Third category: leadership strategy. Breadth signals authority. The brand equity value of comprehensive coverage may exceed the direct SKU level margin. Outerwear is a prime example. Every SKU represents an allocation of working capital, inventory cost, planning resource, and floor space. Is this the highest return use of that capital? Capital allocation decisions require a return metric, a comparison within the range, and a threshold for deployment. The traditional process fails to answer these. The most fundamental error is using gross margin as the SKU level metric. Gross margin is right at the brand level, but systematically misleading for individual items. The correct metric, fully loaded contribution margin, the revenue generated by a SKU minus all costs that can be directly attributed to its existence. We start with full price revenue multiplied by total units. This makes markdown cost visible as a distinct deduction rather than embedding it in a blended figure. Minus landed unit cost, production, quality control, freight, and import duties. Then we subtract the markdown cost, the single largest differentiator. Markdown cost is revenue forgone on units not sold at full price, plus the cost of units destroyed or written off. This must appear as a standalone deduction for decision making. Minus planning cost allocation, the team's time for forecasting and managing the SKU. New styles require more resource than proven carryovers. Minus content and sample cost, photography, video, physical samples. For luxury brands, per SKU content costs can exceed €8,000, costs invisible in gross margin. This reveals the true distribution. Top quintile is the financial backbone. Bottom quintile is where the brand is paying for items to exist. Top quintile, 20% of the range, generates 60 to 80% of total contribution. High sell through, strong demand, efficient planning, the backbone. Middle three quintiles cover their costs but don't generate meaningful return. Bottom quintile, the last 20% frequently generate negative contribution. GM ROI provides a diagnostic for capital efficiency. Use the retail convention net sales divided by average inventory at cost. Everything here uses this convention. Inventory turnover is defined as net sales divided by average inventory at cost. This retail convention is critical. The accounting convention produces a different result. A SKU with 0.8 turns generates GM ROI of 0.52. This capital is generating less than half the return of the average item. GM ROI tells you where to look first. Management argues removing a SKU means losing its revenue entirely. The cannibalization model tests if that revenue is genuinely incremental to the brand. We use three proxy methods to estimate cannibalization rates in ascending order of precision. Proxy 1, Price and Attribute Overlap Analysis. Items targeting the same segment within plus/15% price have high cannibalization, 60% to 80%. Calibration estimates requiring brand validation. Proxy 2, Consumer Segment Overlap Analysis. What proportion of the new SKUs purchasers also bought existing SKUs? High overlap signals spend splitting. Proxy 3, Controlled Interaction with Matched Store Analysis. Measures revenue impact in treatment versus control stores. Precise but operationally demanding. A SKU generating €1 million gross revenue with 65% cannibalization only brings €350K incremental. Items appearing productive often fail at the net level. Question 1. Which SKUs are purchased together? Basket analysis reveals complementarity. Anchor items carry option value that standalone margin understates. Question 2. Which are substitutes? Three near identical black trousers generate lower total revenue than two options because consumers choose among substitutes. Question 3. What is the repeat sequence? Entry point SKUs carry acquisition value. Deepening SKUs enhance lifetime value. Both characterize high value consumers. The data gap itself is a consulting deliverable. Establish what is available versus what must be collected to enable precise analysis in future seasons. Step 1. Establish the profitability baseline. Building the fully loaded calculation for the first time is the analytical foundation of the engagement. Step 3. Model the financial impact using conservative base and optimistic scenarios. Base scenario often shows net improvement despite revenue loss. Step 5. Reinvest the released capital. Increase replenishment on winners and improve range quality. This released capital is a modelable financial return. The recommendation will be resisted. Resistance is primarily creative, not financial. Counter the complainant argument with consumer purchase data. Counter the halo argument by asking for mechanism evidence. Is there consumer research supporting the perception effect? If not, it is assumption. Counter future potential with sell-through trends. A SKU underperforming for 2 seasons is not a misunderstood innovation, it is a confirmed miss. Our hypothetical women's wear brand with 320 million euros revenue reveals the bottom quintile generates negative 12 million euros fully loaded contribution. The recommendation: eliminate the bottom quintile and high substitutability items, reducing the range by 38% to approximately 520 SKUs. Projected impact: net contribution improvement of 18 euros to 24 million. 4% less revenue, significantly more profit. Capital is released for redeployment. In a typical mid market fashion range, the top 20% of SKUs generate approximately 80% of gross profit. The bottom 20%, measured by fully loaded contribution margin, not simple gross margin, frequently generate negative contribution. They consume working capital, planning resource, and markdown budget at a rate that exceeds their revenue contribution. The brand is paying for them to exist. Here is the conversation that happens in almost every fashion brand's planning cycle every season without variation. Correct board level errors, SKU count is not brand ambition, and gross margin misleads the board by failing to identify capital consuming items. Error 1: treating SKU count as brand ambition. Wider choice sets often suppress purchase probability. The proof is in the declining sell through per SKU. Error 2: evaluating on gross margin rather than fully loaded contribution. Standard reporting cannot identify capital consuming items. The waterfall is clarifying. Error 3: treating revenue loss as net loss. Framing the revenue loss alongside recovering capital and saving costs determines approval. A rationalized range improves brand equity. When consumers encounter genuinely excellent products, their assessment of the brand's quality increases. Combine the gross margin improvement with the brand trajectory argument. When both point in the same direction, the recommendation is nearly impossible to decline. Strategy equals sign equity plus margin. Combine the gross margin improvement with the brand trajectory argument. When both point in the same direction, the recommendation is nearly impossible to decline. Strategy equals sign equity plus margin. Both are wrong, and they are wrong for reasons neither has articulated clearly. One treats the assortment as a created portfolio, the other as a fixed budget constraint. A tightly rationalized range improves brand equity. When consumers encounter genuinely excellent products, their assessment of the brand's quality increases. Combine the gross margin improvement with the brand trajectory argument. When both point in the same direction, the recommendation is nearly impossible to decline. A tightly rationalized range improves brand equity. When consumers encounter genuinely excellent products, their assessment of the brand's quality increases. Assessment trajectory. Combine the gross margin improvement with the brand trajectory argument. When both point in the same direction, the recommendation is nearly impossible to decline. Strategy equals sign equity plus margin. Management argues that removing a SKU will lose revenue. The cannibalization model tests this: is the revenue incremental or is it just redirected spend?